We're here at Gamescom 2014 and we are about to talk to a developer of Shovel Knight.
I'm Sean Velasco from Yacht Club Games. I was the designer and director on Shovel Knight.
What is Shovel Knight about?
As you can see, Shovel Knight is a side-scrolling 8-bit platformer. You know, we wanted to develop a game that was in the same style of the games that we loved in the past, right? NES games, Nintendo games, games that were based on a singular mechanic, something that was interesting and simple. You know, like all the games on the original Nintendo, it was like you had Mario, and it was all about the jump. You had Contra, it was all about like shooting in 8 directions. You have like Castlevania, and there's a very delayed reaction on that whip. You know, each of those things, it gives the character such a distinctive feel. We wanted to make a game that had a simple character that had interesting mechanics that you could use in interesting ways, but it would be simple enough that you could understand it. So, I mean, that's exactly what we did with Shovel Knight. You can jump, you can shovel, and then when you're in the air, you can press down to do like a downward stab, and that's pretty much it. But because you know what you can do, wow, this is such wonderful pro play too. Because you know exactly what you can do, you can start to imagine what is all happening around you, and you can start using those elements to your advantage. So it's like the world has a lot of complexity, but because you're simple, then you can start to intuit what you think everything in the world might do. So yeah, I mean, the game is about gameplay, it's about fun, it's about whimsy, and it's something. It's not so serious, you know. It's a game that's just about having a good time, and so that's what Shovel Knight's all about.
Great. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of classic games like Mega Man and DuckTales. And it's thing what I was thinking is, was the shovel there from the get-go, or had you other concepts for weapons or maybe mining or something instead of a shovel?
Well, no, I mean, that's a good question. As I kind of, to my previous point, we wanted to make a game based around a mechanic, but we didn't exactly know what the object would be or what it would be. We knew we wanted to make a game that was based around like a downward stabbing action. And so that's the key. That was the key to Shovel Knight, right? And so we thought about, well, in addition to doing the stabbing, what if you're thrusting forward and attacking enemies? What if maybe you could like flip something over? And we realized that we were talking about a shovel, right? It was the closest thing. And so at first it's like shovel guy, or something like that. And then later on we came up with the concept of doing a Shovel Knight and having all the other boss knights and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's very astute. Mega Man is absolutely one of our favorites, one of our core games that we just love. So yeah, thank you.
Why did you start your own company and making Shovel Knight? Why was that?
Okay, well, I previously worked at a company called WayForward, and WayForward is known for making licensed games, and they're known for doing beautiful hand-drawn side-scrolling games also. So this is kind of where I came up. And my team came up. We all used to work at WayForward, and so we worked on games like Double Dragon Neon, Blood Rain Betrayal, Contra 4, A Boy and His Blob. A lot of games on the Wii U on the Wii and on the DS. And so we had a lot of experience making games like that. But we wanted to make games, in a small team and in a close-knit environment where we were all working on things together. And then on top of that, something that was more original games as opposed to doing licensed games. And so with the advent of Kickstarter and kind of the rise of the indie movement and all that, we thought, okay, this is a perfect time for us to jump in. And so we broke off and we formed our own company, and Shovel Knight's our first game.
Awesome. And because it was a Kickstarter game and there were a lot of expectations, was it more stressful to make a game that way, or is it more stressful to just when you worked at WayForward?
Well, each one comes with their own stresses. At WayForward, you were working under a publisher, and so you had to really be careful, of the publisher, and you wanted to make sure that you were making them happy. But for us now, the publisher is like everyone, right? Like the people are the publisher, and so yeah, it's a tremendous amount of pressure. We have 15,000 people from our Kickstarter that were excited for a game and that we promised to them, so we knew that we had to deliver it. We tried to really do our best to do things like give out updates to let everyone know what was going on with the game. We tried to have collaboration as much as possible. Like, for example, at one of our Kickstarter backer levels, you could join a Google Hangout where we were doing game design, and it's like I'm sort of up here on the board, you know, saying, like, do this and A and B, and what characters do you think should be here? What kind of game design should this go? And people would type in and they would say, oh yeah, I want it to be like this, or maybe we'll have this enemy, or we'll have this item. And so a lot of those elements ended up in the game. And so it's just really cool to have fans and to have other people that are excited about the game contribute to it. And I think as a result, the game has just been made all the more strong.
Yeah. And how was the interaction with the fans? Was it really special for you, or?
Oh, well, I mean, the game has only just come out in the United States on the Wii U and on the 3DS. So it came out on June 26th, roughly only, a little more than a month ago. So the first show that I got to go to where people had actually played the game was very recently at San Diego Comic-Con. So I was there, and people were approaching us, the members of the development team that had played the game. And they said, "Oh, I played Shovel Knight. I love Shovel Knight. This has been, it's so incredible. I worship you guys." And it's like, it's ridiculous, but it's fantastic. The response has just been so overwhelmingly positive and so wonderful. And I mean, we have such an amazingly wonderful fan base. It's really, it's completely overwhelming. Truly, it's overwhelming. It's still we're not. I feel like we'll never recover from it,
With Shovel Knight now, are you going to make a 16-bit or a 64-bit version or something like that?
Well, that's an idea that we've been throwing around a lot, right? And that seems like the natural progression. Yeah. Either we make 9 of these and they're all in the same style, or we do a Super Shovel Knight, we do a Shovel Knight 64. Personally, I'm really excited about making a 3D game, especially doing a 3D platformer, like a Mario 64 type of game. But I mean, doing it in that graphical style, I'm not sure that carries over. I don't think that low poly nostalgia really necessarily works. The truth is, we're going to have our hands plenty full with Shovel Knight for the time being. We're going to be, obviously the European version is coming out very soon. We just finished the localization for that. We're going to be having a Japanese version that's going to be released sometime in the near future. And then we're doing free updates that are going to be happening for Shovel Knight for probably an entire year from now. So in addition, but this is from the Kickstarter campaign, right? This is all of the things that we unlocked. So playable bosses, right? You're going to be able to play as King Knight, as Spectre Knight, and Plague Knight, all in their own campaigns. There's going to be a gender swap mode, so all of the main characters, if they're female, will become male and vice versa. Maybe like an Adventure Time Fiona and Cake kind of thing, We're going to be doing a challenge mode where it's little bite-sized challenges, and there's maybe like 100 levels, and they're all really, really difficult, but really short, And so you could just play one and do it over and over again, and it takes a couple of seconds. Maybe we'll do something a little bit different than that, right? Like challenge mode, that's how we pitched it, but now that I've been thinking about it, maybe I want to do something a little bit different. Maybe it'll all be connected in like one giant environment or something like that. Yeah.
Very awesome.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we're going to be doing a 4-player battle mode. And so that's going to be, 4 Wii remotes, and you can play with your friends and play as all the knights, the Order of No Quarter, as Shovel Knight, and pretty much all the main characters. So yeah, we're going to be doing these updates for the foreseeable future, and so it's going to be, we have our work cut out for us, We're not really thinking about the next project yet.
Okay, so no games in development at the moment. It's just really Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight. It's still okay,
yeah, true.
We just did a hangout, actually a Google Hangout, like I was talking about design for the Plague Knight campaign. So I mean, that's what we're going to get started on now. It's like when I go home, I'm going to be working on the Plague Knight campaign.
Let's talk about the game itself a bit. Sure. I saw when you die, some gold bags were flying away. What is that about?
Okay, well, you can see in the upper left-hand corner is your gold. count. It's at 0 right now because the demo just started. But Shovel Knight needs to collect a lot of treasure so you can buy upgrades and armor and all sorts of things like that. So unfortunately, when you die, or fortunately, right? Okay, the lives system in games we thought was a little bit outdated. So what we decided to do is you have infinite lives and there are checkpoints all over. But when you die, the gold that you collected, 1/4 of it drops out in these bags. So if you die, the bags will be there and they'll be floating and you can go and recollect them and get them back. Unfortunately, if you die on your way there, then they disappear permanently. So it's like you can have a chance to get your treasure, but you want to be careful not to lose more treasure in the process trying to get it back.
Yeah. Are there just 8 levels? Because you said there are 8 bosses.
Well, no, there's a few more than that. The forest stage that we just saw is like an introductory level, and so that's the beginning level. In the end, there are some boss stages, and then on top of that, well, you saw the world map a little bit. Yeah. You can kind of choose any direction that you want to go. There are a lot of different levels that you can choose at any time, and on top of those regular Order of No Quarter stages, there are little short stages that'll test out some of your items that you have. There are villages to visit, and there's a couple of secret areas. Overall, there's probably 20 different places to go in Shovel Knight. So it's a bit more expansive than just the Order of No Quarter battle, yeah.
Great. And the levels, is it like Super Mario 3 or more like Super Mario World in that you can replay levels?
Yes, yeah. In fact, that was one of the things in the beginning. We wanted to make it so you couldn't replay the level. So you go through it all in one run, and however much gold you lost, that's just how it was. So we had a small beta where we sent it out and got everyone's feedback, and the feedback was unanimous. Everyone said we want to go back to levels. This is crazy. I'm angry that I can't go back to levels. So we changed it. So you can go back to levels. You can go and recollect gold as much as you want, or you can go back and collect any song scrolls or any of the collectibles that you might have missed.
Okay. And so there are a lot of collectibles besides the gold. Only notes or more?
Okay, well, yeah, in every stage there are those hidden musical notes, and the musical notes will unlock, they'll unlock songs in the village that actually pertain to the real songs in the game. So it's like there will be 2 song scrolls hidden in each stage. Like here in Spectre Knight stage, there are 2 song scrolls, one for his song and one for the boss song. So you can go into the village and the bard will play those songs for you, and they'll also give you a big payout. So it's great to be searching for these song scrolls because they're just an important thing to be getting money and also for completion. But then on top of that, there's a relic hidden in each stage, and the relics are, well, you can see up here where it says item, and right now the flare wand is equipped. So using the relics, it lets you kind of cheat the game in one way or another. This one lets you shoot a fireball, so you can shoot it all the way across the screen. That's really useful for a Shovel Knight who has a very short range. There's another item that bounces around very chaotically, and it's good for hitting enemies that are maybe out of your range. There's an item that lets you phase out and become invisible for a very brief period, so you could pass through enemies or even walk over spikes. But it takes a lot of magic, and you can only use it very occasionally. Anyway, these items are all hidden throughout the stages, and so you're going to definitely want to be searching around so you can make sure to get everything.
Okay. And those power-ups, like the flame, are they permanent, or is it like Castlevania that when you pick up another power-up, the previous goes away?
No, it's permanent. Yeah. So basically, you have an inventory that you can open, and you can swap between them all. On the Wii U and 3DS, the gamepad screen serves as your quick select, so you can just do it with touch very easily. So that's a pretty nice feature. It's cool because you can just swap between things and do a lot of tricks, by switching items very quickly and shooting them all around.
Awesome. And I saw in the trailer the town. Do you have side quests there or something, or?
Well, the town is, we'd never done a town in a game before, really, and so it was a fun experience. We were trying to figure out how to make a game how to make a town that had a little bit more gameplay in it. And so everything in the town is interactive. And so by knocking things around with your shovel, by talking to people, there are definitely a few things you can do. There won't be, it's not like there will be a gold exclamation point above someone's head and they'll say, Shovel Knight, go on this quest. nothing like that. But there are a lot of secrets in the towns, and there's also a lot to do there. We're really excited about the towns. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, cool. And after the Kickstarter is things are done, are you going to make more DLC or?
Well, I mean, we're not really. We're probably not going to make more DLC for Shovel Knight. We want to do these free updates. We want to put it all out, and who knows? Maybe by the end of it, we'll be sick of working on Shovel Knight. We won't want to make any more of it, right? But if we were excited and we still wanted to make more, we would probably just roll those ideas into a new Shovel Knight game, right? Like into a sequel or something. But I mean, we're really, like I was saying, we're really not thinking that far ahead. I mean, we've thought of making a pinball game. We've thought of making a collectible card game like Final Fantasy VIII, like Triple Triad. Wouldn't that be like awesome? Okay, imagine if one of the campaigns for this. Imagine if like the King Knight campaign. It's like you like King Knight walks in and into the village, and the bard is there, and he's like, hey, have you noticed everyone's all into cards? Like Pokemon, right? Where everyone's so excited about that world, and he's like, hey, I'm the bard of cards. Here, take these 5 cards. And so you have 5 cards, and you can play the card game, and maybe you'd run into an enemy like this beetle here, but instead of fighting it, it'd be like, and then you would do a card battle against the beetle, and when you won, you would get his card. Imagine something like that. Wouldn't that be weird?
That would be weird, but that's so freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we're thinking about doing now. I mean, now that we have the base of the game built, we can start riffing on it in weird and fun ways,
Yeah. Yeah, what stage is this?
This is the Spectre Knight stage, so you can tell it's a graveyard. It's a very kind of creepy atmosphere. You're being haunted by ghosts. You're fighting electric frogs. You're fighting skeletons, and then of course Spectre Knight is the big bad at the end of the stage. Each of our stages is like elaborately themed around the boss and around the area that he resides in. So I mean, for Spectre Knight we have a graveyard. For King Knight we have a gilded palace, called Pridemore Keep. Plague Knight resides in a laboratory called the Explodatorium, and Mole Knight is in like an underground lost city full of lava. And so each one of them has like a very interestingly themed world, but on top of that, all the mechanics in each stage are very, very different. So it's a lot of variety, and you should be playing something new and interesting every time.
And for speedrunners, do you have also mode that you can skip parts of the story so you can progress really fast?
Well, that's an interesting question because we love speedrunning. Super Metroid was the game that I got into speedrunning. When I was growing up, and I realized how fun it was to play through a game perfectly and try to finish it as quickly as possible. We wanted to make the same thing possible for Shovel Knight, and so we actually reached out to speedrunners in the speedrunner community before the game came out in the United States, and we said, hey, what is it about this game? Is it good for speedrunning? Is there anything that you would change about it? Is there anything you want to do? And so most of the story sequences, the ones that don't, well, we don't have a lot of story sequences anyway, but the ones that don't contain gameplay, you can just press start to skip them all. But there were a few things like with the randomness of the generation that speedrunners were like, this is too random, and it's weird because you could kill the whole run just by some random thing that wasn't the speedrunner's fault. And so that's something that speedrunners don't really like to do. We had requests for things like putting a clock up on there, like if you wanted to go into and have it, maybe in one of these corners. So those are things that we're looking into adding in future updates, but we're definitely listening to fan feedback about all that stuff, and we did try to make it as great for speedrunners as possible. The cool part is we've seen a lot of speedrunners already playing the game, so I think for awesome games done quick, hopefully, the next time they do it, Shovel Knight will be included.
When do you think the European version will come out?
Well, the translation, the localization is now finished. First of all, I want to apologize. We really wanted to have the game out all at the same time, but the localization really ran longer than we thought it was going to, and we want to make sure that we want to make sure that Shovel Knight feels at home in every territory. You know, I want to make sure that when you're playing it in whatever language, that you feel like it's yours. You know, like it's your game. And so, you know, that's why we made the decision to localize it. You know, to as many languages as possible. And we're going to hopefully continue to add more. Anyway, we're going to be submitting the game extremely soon. Like maybe on Monday we'll be submitting it, meaning that it would be coming out in mid to late September.
Great.
So yeah, that's a pretty solid set period at this point. Yeah.
Great. I'm going to buy it on day one, and everyone should buy it on day one.
Fantastic. Yeah, you know, double dip. The Wii U version and the 3DS version are both really fantastic. You know, on the 3DS we have stereoscopic gameplay, and the 3D just looks so cool. We also have a Street Pass feature called the Street Pass Arena, where you can pass another Shovel Knight player on the street, and you have a little 5 seconds of recorded battle footage on one screen. So you go and you try to collect these gems, and you have to defeat the other Shovel Knight, but you know, there's no other Shovel Knight there because you haven't street passed yet. So you kind of have to make a guess at it, and you jump around and you start hitting everything. You collect as many gems as possible, and then when you street pass, the other player's data matches up with yours, and you see who wins. You know, it seems ridiculous, and it seems like it would never work, but after you do it a few times, you start to develop a strategy for it, and it's a lot of fun. But then on the Wii U, there's a bunch of great stuff too. You know, we have this feature called the Digger's Diary, and it's on the Wii U gamepad, and it makes use of the Miiverse. So basically, you'll be playing the game like normal, and then you'll be looking on your gamepad screen, and there will be something called the Diary. You press that button, and every room that you're in, Miiverse messages will appear on the gamepad, and those messages are written by other players in the world, and they could be anything, right? It's like maybe it could be, hey, there's some gems hidden in the upper right hand corner, don't forget to get them. Or, you know, you can also have a little avatar there, so you can write messages, you can read messages. It's sort of like being on the schoolyard, sharing secrets and trading ideas and things with your friends, like how you would do. Except now it's online, and it's this worldwide community. So we've already seen it in the American version of the game, and the Miiverse is just exploding with awesome fan art because you can do drawings, really cool messages, and we have it's really great. I mean, it's overwhelming, and since it matches to every room, there's so much art being generated, and there's so many comments being generated. It really feels like a thriving community. So it's like when you're playing on the Wii U version, it's like you're never really playing alone, you know, or if you don't want to be, you can just ignore the diary if you want.
Okay, it sounds a bit like the Dark Souls system, but you can also troll people.
Yes.
I think. Yes.
Yeah, of course you could. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit like the Dark Souls system. Yeah, I mean, we were just trying to think of fun ways to use the Miiverse, and this seemed like the perfect implementation for this game. Yeah.
Great. And who's that boss?
Yeah, so this is Spectre Knight. He doesn't have very nice things to say about Shovel Knight or any of his friends. But this is a pretty difficult boss battle. One of the things that we wanted to do was have really good difficulty ramping. So you start from the beginning, and the game is relatively easy, but then as it goes further and further, it gets more and more difficult. By the time you finish the last level, you'll look at the first level and say, oh my god, I can't believe I ever had trouble with that, you know? And if we can get players that have never played an NES game before, playing an NES game, trying it maybe for the first time, that would be amazing. And that's what we've seen too. We've seen players of all ages love this game. Players that haven't played something on the NES, young people that weren't around for those times. It's like they see the game, and maybe it looks a little bit like all those other 8-bit platformers, but once you get it in your hands, it's like this magic happens. It's so awesome.
You cheated a bit with the graphics, right? It's not really 8-bit.
No, of course not. I mean, it's very... we tried to make the 8-bit game that you remember, not the 8-bit game that actually was. Like there are many screens of parallax, so as you're moving, all of the backgrounds move behind you, like you're like in perspective, and that's something that could never be done on the NES. We use a couple of colors that we shouldn't. Our sprites are bigger. We have more animation frames. It's a widescreen presentation, and we're using the Street Pass. We're using the Miiverse. It supports many controller configurations. There's touchscreen, quick select. So I mean, there are a lot of features, and there's a lot of design work that went into it. But I mean, the graphics are definitely, it's not exactly NES.
Can you tell me a bit about the story? It's a bit late, but...
Sure. Yeah, well, basically Shovel Knight and his partner Shield Knight were like the most well-renowned warriors in the land. They were adventurers, they earned all the gold, they were treasure hunters, and they were the best, but one day they bit off a little bit more than they could chew at a place called the Tower of Fate, and Shield Knight fell due to indeterminate circumstances. So Shovel Knight, they're separated. Shield Knight is gone, for maybe forever. And so Shovel Knight just decides, okay, I'm going to give up. So he goes and lives a life of solitude alone. But then, out of nowhere, comes the Order of No Quarter, these 8 evil knights, and they're led by the Enchantress, who's an incredibly powerful sorceress, and they just start taking over the entire land. So Shovel Knight can't have that, right? He has to pick up his shovel and kind of go for one last time. And that's where it all begins.
Cool. And she beat the boss.
Fantastic.
How was it working with Nintendo?
Oh, I mean, it was completely fantastic. We mostly worked with Nintendo of America, so far, and just now we're kind of getting into the Nintendo of Europe crew also. But I mean, NOA was so great. They took us around. I mean, we went, they flew us to San Francisco to do media events. We were with them at all their conventions. Basically, everywhere Nintendo was, it's like we were there too. It's like we were just among all of the other games. Like we were just one more game in the Nintendo catalog, and to be treated like that was just fantastic. They've been very helpful, very respectful, and have just aided us in so many ways. I mean, they helped us with development hardware. When the game came out in America on the eShop, it said like coming soon, and there was a little Shovel Knight, and then there was like it said like it was a takeover, like the entire eShop was full of Shovel Knight stuff. It said like coming soon, and there was Shovel Knight. It said now playing, and there's like a little Enchantress or Black Knight, and then it's like new games, whatever, like check out this section, and it had more Shovel Knight stuff. And
how many languages do we get?
Okay, good. Yeah, we're doing it in English, French, Italian, German, and Spanish, and the localization is all finished. So yeah, I mean it's ready to go. Hopefully, we're going to be adding more languages in the future too. We would love to have a Russian option. We'd love to do Brazilian, Portuguese, and then of course we're going to do a Japanese localization very soon also. So I mean, yeah, as I was saying before, we want it to feel like it's at home, right? Like when you think of Mario, when you think of Mickey Mouse, you don't think of Mario as being a Japanese character, right? You think of him as being like a world character.
Yeah.
It's like he's a part of you no matter where you're from. And so we want to make it the same with Shovel Knight.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, like I said, my apologies that the European version isn't out yet. We really tried to have it all out at the same time, but it is going to be coming soon. Mid to late September is when it's going to be coming out. To fans of Shovel Knight and people that have already played the game, thank you so much for your support. Like we have the best fans in the entire world. I just it's been so overwhelming and so wonderful. So please. Thank you for enjoying Shovel Knight, and please enjoy the game if you haven't played it yet. And I mean, really, that's it. We're so full of gratitude to be able to come here, to be able to come to Europe and talk about the game, and to be able to interface with people that have that are excited for it, to be running with Nintendo, to be working on a game like this. I mean, it's all just really a dream come true.
I hope you enjoyed it, and buy the game on day one.